Welcome to Crossing Faiths, a podcast with a Christian and a Muslim talking religion and politics. A few weeks ago, I asked my co-host John Pinna what he thought about the Afghan election that had recently occurred. We cut that conversation for the purposes of time on a different episode, but we wanted to share it anyway, kind of as a bonus track. So here you go. Election in Afghanistan. What are the high marks? What do we need to know as onlookers from the U.S.?
Oof. If you're talking about the Afghan election, it's a problem right now. It's amazing what is going on. I think that first of all, it's worth it to say that the last election was the first peaceful transition from the Karzai to Ghani, right? So this was an amazing transition to a new president.
Yeah.
And I think that so it was a peaceful transition. The first time in I don't know how long, maybe 50 years in Afghanistan.
It's remarkable.
I'm sorry?
It's remarkable.
It's extraordinary, and it's worth saying that how proud can you be of a country that comes from such tremendous conflict that Afghans didn't bring on themselves. The Russian invasion, and you have the Mujahideen and the Taliban and all this stuff going. Peaceful transition, wonderful. Yeah. Okay, now there's a bunch of candidates, and of course Ghani is the president right now. Right. He the World Bank guy. Intellectual, some practical knowledge, but he hasn't been able to do what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
And if I was going to say three things, look, you're not splitting the atom when it comes to post-conflict countries.
Yeah.
You build a country with security, economic development, education, with the glue of governance.
Yeah.
And he has failed at all four of those things.
Uh-huh.
He's probably. You could argue that he tried to attack governance a little bit, which is corruption. That's where corruption falls.
Yeah.
Help maybe a little bit a peppering of education, economic development. It is in negative. It went backwards under him, and when it comes to security, it went backwards. The Taliban had taken Kunduz and stuff. So Ghani does not have broad support, but Abdullah does.
Yeah.
Who is one of the vice presidents, and he has broad support. And he's got all the tribes. He's got even the Ghani people are supporting Abdullah.
Yeah.
You have some really tough guys. You got Haq Martyr and Dostum and some of these other guys that are involved. I met with Zalmay Rasool, who is the foreign minister who is running for president, and a few others. And I'll just be honest with you, Al-Qazai, who makes the tea. So, it's businessmen and everything else. But the problem is with Ghani, he hasn't delivered, and he's known for being having a little bit of a temper, and he's also known for going around process. So he'll appoint a ambassador and then use his own envoys to engage the U.S. government, for example, without the ambassador's knowledge or approval. Huh. So what do you need to know? I think Abdullah is going to win. If he doesn't, I would.
At this point, he looks like he's claiming victory. So assuming he does win, what do you anticipate?
I anticipate. The tribes being along with him. I think of the five major families, I think he's got at least three behind him. Uh-huh. The Atanor and Dostum and Karzai. So I think he's set, and I think even the Northern Alliance is like, okay, fine, let's go with this guy. Yeah. I think that when it comes, he's a bridge from the old world to the new world, and if he gets on a platform, I was an advocate that there should be a female running mate, a female vice president. That was what I was trying to.
Could that fly in Afghanistan at this point in time, or too early?
There's plenty of prominent ladies in Afghanistan that are it's a myth. Let me just tell you right now, it's a myth that women are not involved in Afghanistan. There needs to be more, yes, but there is some very thoughtful and operating and embedded in governmental process and all these other initiatives, whether it be economic or education or security or governance, and to pick on some of those women, to include them in the presidential race, I think would have been worked to the advantage of any candidate. But Abdullah, I think the next step is he's got to move decisively when it comes to this whole deal with the Taliban, because I've held my tongue. I held my tongue for months with Ambassador Khalilzad. He wasn't up to the task. Number one, he wasn't involving the government. He was destabilizing the government by not involving them. And regardless of how I feel about Khani, that was an issue. And the third thing is that he was essentially telling falsehoods about this interaction with the Taliban. The Taliban, he would say everything's going well with the Taliban, everything's going great. The next day they would conduct an attack. And we all know what happened with the failure of the peace talks with the Taliban. He just wasn't the guy. You need a neutral guy or gal, but you need a neutral guy in there to negotiate with the multiple parties that's not linked to a tribe and is not linked to the old guard. You need somebody who can walk in and there's not they don't have those vested interests. Plus, you have he's one of the most successful war profiteers on the planet. So, if you look at the commonalities between Iraq and Afghanistan, one commonality when it comes to wasting of funds, when it comes to lowering and jeopardizing the U.S. position in both countries, is Ambassador Khalilzad. He was the ambassador of both countries, Iraq and Afghanistan. And so he was wonderful during the war in Afghanistan. But post, I would question a lot of his policies and how he doled out funds to warlords. But I think that Abdullah has to address the Taliban issue now, immediately. My stance on that is very easy. Get them involved in eradicating Daesh. Be like, look, guys, you guys want to be part of the political system? Get rid of Daesh. U.S. air support will support you. Just loosen up on your and how you oppress women, and because we know you're not going anywhere. And guess what? We want to bring to justice those people that harbored Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad. And so the Pakistanis have never apologized for that. They've never brought anybody to justice. You guys are embedded there. Find some guys that we can bring to justice that harbored him for all those years. And if you guys do those three things, that's a negotiation point, I think. Then what we'll do is we'll go 3 months on that, and at the end of 3 months, we'll figure out where we're at with that. I think that there has to be a new security agreement signed and executed with the U.S. and the international partners there that addresses not only security but the economic development piece and education and governance, because right now all those countries that are involved in Afghanistan are doing it sort of piecemeal, and they're doing it siloed, and they're very territorial. There needs to be more integrated approach. And the big question is, in 2025, the UN, it's the longest commitment the UN has ever made to a country. They're pulling out with all their funding. So there needs to be some idea of what's going to happen with that. So these are broad strokes, but I think Abdullah, that right there is an agenda from Abdullah. And
you heard it here.
You heard it here. And like I said, I have problems with bringing the old guard back. And to negotiate on behalf of the Afghan people when there are plenty of educated Afghans out there. There are plenty of Afghans that have a long history of doing work in country and that can thoughtfully handle their business. There's a new thing called, relatively new, called it's like Afghan Youth TV. And if you just listen to Afghan Youth TV, all the ideas are there. It's all there.
Interesting.
They are, wonderfully thinking about all these different things, and with the U.S. military. If you deal with colonels colonels down, and really just go get Marine, Air Force, Navy, all the guys that serve there. You will get a sound operational operational plan. You'll get strategic and tactical elements. You got to stop talking to the generals over there because they're completely out of touch with reality. So you hit the Marine colonels, you hit that are just coming back, you hit the Army colonels that are just coming back, and the SOCOM guys, Special Operations Command. You will get a sound idea of what needs to happen, and how to execute whatever it is that needs to be done there from a security standpoint, but also from a civil society standpoint, because the military's bled into civil society now. No pun intended. But
all right.
Did I answer your question?
You did, at length.
Oh, you say you're crying? Edit.
This has been Crossing Phase with John Pinna and Matt Hawkins, a podcast of Rolltop Productions. You can continue the conversation with us if you dare on Twitter via @MTHawk, @JTPinna, and @CrossingPhase. Love it or hate it, we'd appreciate your review of our program wherever you glean your favorite podcasts, especially in the iTunes Store. Music for this episode is provided courtesy Vajra. Show notes and an assortment of other information is available at crossingphase.com.